They said it could never happen, yet here we are, witnessing a surge so staggering that skeptics everywhere are rubbing their eyes in disbelief. That is how insiders are currently describing the astonishing interest swirling around Ripple, the company famous for its enterprise blockchain solutions and for powering the digital asset known as XRP. Today, we dive deep into what is fueling this flurry of excitement, and why some experts believe Ripple could soon become the biggest name on Wall Street's radar. Are we on the brink of a groundbreaking initial public offering that could shoot Ripple's valuation beyond $100 billion? In this episode, we buckle up and sift through the real-life drama, from eye-popping futures trading volumes to sweeping global partnerships, so we can discover whether Ripple is about to send shockwaves across the financial universe. In the next few minutes, prepare to learn how one outspoken attorney in the XRP community has sent the crypto world into a frenzy by claiming Ripple's true value could soar to previously unimaginable levels. We will also examine how Circle's equally dramatic rise has turned heads on the New York Stock Exchange, and what that means for Ripple's own ambitions. If you stick with us, you will find out about the newly launched derivatives that might be paving the way for an XRP exchange-traded fund. And we will discuss how Ripple's international connections could catapult its technology into mainstream financial systems worldwide. This story is not just about a single cryptocurrency's prospects. It is about the next stage in blockchain evolution, a riveting tale of strategic plays, legal battles, and larger-than-life personalities. Picture this. On one side, we have John Deaton, an ardent voice among XRP's loyalists, boldly predicting that Ripple could hit a $100 billion valuation once it goes public. On the other side, skeptics warn that these predictions are inflated by media hype and that unsolved regulatory dilemmas may still loom over Ripple's prospects. But here is the million-dollar question. If once doubtful traders are now throwing their weight behind Ripple, could that indicate that the tide has decisively turned in this high-stakes game? In this in-depth exploration, we will peel back the layers of Ripple's journey from regulatory wrangles toward potential big-time success. We will scrutinize the cautious stance of the company's executives, who have insisted that an initial public offering is possible but not top priority. And we will see how the unstoppable momentum from the rest of the crypto world is putting them on the spot. Finally, we will map out the worldwide appetite for regulated crypto products, because yes, this is going global in ways that might change the future of money. Our tale begins in an era when crypto faced relentless skepticism. Critics labeled digital currencies a fad, a speculative bubble, or a flash in the pan. Then an attorney by the name of John Deaton, who has been closely involved in the legal intricacies surrounding XRP, made a bold claim. He argued that Ripple, the company behind this frequently debated token, could be massively undervalued if it has not yet tapped the potential of the public stock exchange. According to his framework, once that giant step onto Wall Street occurs, Ripple could exceed $100 billion in market valuation. That is the kind of figure that makes everyone, long-standing crypto enthusiasts and legacy bankers alike, take a second look. But let us step back for a moment and talk about Circle, which has also catapulted itself into the limelight. Circle went public earlier this month, listing on the New York Stock Exchange at a time when traditional investors were still deciding whether or not to take crypto-based companies seriously. Then came the shock. Circle's stock skyrocketed more than 600%, driving its valuation into the realm of $66.2 billion, according to the latest reports. Keep in mind that Circle's main product is a stablecoin called USDC, with a circulating supply that has hovered around $61.3 billion. That means Circle's market cap now outstrips the total value of its own flagship token. This might sound peculiar, but it is a strong indication that the market is pricing in Circle's future growth potential, not just its existing footprint. Why should this matter for Ripple? Because Ripple, unlike many crypto ventures, is considered by some analysts to be a pioneer in bridging the gap between traditional banking systems and blockchain-powered cross-border payments. Ripple wields a massive stash of XRP tokens, over 40 billion, with a significant portion locked away in escrow. At current prices, that alone would be worth a jaw-dropping sum, potentially nearing or surpassing $79 billion. And that figure does not even begin to factor in Ripple's wide-reaching connections, from partnerships with major remittance providers to pilot projects modernizing the internal systems of forward-thinking financial institutions. Imagine combining all that with the wave of goodwill that might follow as more and more regulators shift to recognizing crypto as an integral part of the finance world. Now, one might ask, if everything is so positive, why does Ripple's leadership persistently appear reserved in public statements about going public? Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple's chief executive officer, announced a share buyback that was intended to underscore the company's strong cash position. Meanwhile, Ripple's president, Monica Long, reiterated as recently as April 2025 that there are no plans to go public this year. The explanation, at least on the surface, is that Ripple is well capitalized and is in no rush to subject itself to the scrutiny that comes with publicly traded status. But seasoned observers suggest that these guarded statements are a strategic maneuver, especially since the time might soon be right for them to leap into the public markets. With the Federal Reserve showing signs of a more dovish stance, and with major exchange-traded funds for Bitcoin and Ethereum making headlines, listing on a major stock exchange might be a chance for Ripple to assert itself as a heavyweight in the blockchain space. That leads us to the second key piece of the puzzle: XRP futures on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, commonly referred to as the CME. Not too long ago, it sounded like a distant dream that the CME, renowned for setting the gold standard in regulated derivatives trading, would ever list XRP futures. Well, guess what? They did, launching these contracts to cater to both internal demands and a global appetite. And in their first month on the market, volumes ballooned to over $500 million in notional value. That is not a modest entry by any measure. If you find this tidbit fascinating, feel free to offer a quick thumbs up, because we are only getting started with these astonishing developments. For context, CME is not just another derivatives marketplace. It is one of the largest and most respected marketplaces for commodities, indexes, and futures of all sorts. When crypto skeptics want to bet on or against a digital asset, they often look for CME's offerings, as the United States-based exchange adheres to conventional reporting and regulatory frameworks. The fact that XRP futures have already attracted such significant interest underscores a shifting sentiment. Investors appear to have grown comfortable with or even enthusiastic about regulated crypto products, an evolution that speaks volumes about how far we have come from the chaotic days of unregulated exchanges and wild price swings. But what about the real underlying use case behind XRP and its associated blockchain network? That question matters because the ability of a token to transform real-world financial processes can be the difference between a fleeting trend and a new paradigm. Ripple has structured its token to facilitate instantaneous cross-border payments at a fraction of the cost found in traditional wire transfers. If you have ever been stuck waiting for days for a bank transfer to clear or paid frustratingly high fees just to send money to another country, you can appreciate why a digital asset that promises to do it faster and cheaper might gain momentum. Of course, Ripple's history of tangling with regulatory agencies in the United States has overshadowed these practical use cases, leaving many to wonder whether the company might get bogged down indefinitely. Yet many of those concerns are starting to fade, as the legal environment, while not perfectly clarified, has moved closer to acknowledging that XRP might be used as a bona fide utility token rather than a security. This progress, in turn, has contributed to the near euphoria popping up around the idea of an XRP-based exchange-traded fund. According to some market watchers, the probability of a spot XRP ETF could be as high as 95% by the year 2025. If that bullish call proves accurate, funds around the globe could soon offer exposure to XRP just as easily as they now let people invest in stocks or precious metals, and that would be a seismic shift. An XRP ETF would not only open doors for large institutions looking for regulated pathways into crypto, but would also accelerate mainstream adoption, thereby fueling more demand for the token. Ultimately, that might be the stepping stone Ripple needs if it does decide to launch an initial public offering. Yet, there is another dimension here, and it has to do with global markets. While some aspects of crypto remain heavily scrutinized in the United States, other parts of the world, including Asia, Europe, and various regions in Latin America, have become more amenable to regulated crypto investment vehicles. This worldwide appeal can be seen in the fact that a significant portion, reportedly around half, of all early trading in CME's XRP futures emerged from outside North America. In places where the banking infrastructure is either slow, expensive, or precarious, A digital asset that can facilitate near-instant and cost-effective transactions might be viewed as a godsend. Ripple has not been shy about tapping these opportunities, forging alliances and partnerships with local financial institutions in hopes of embedding XRP into the standard rails of global commerce. So, how does this build an overarching narrative that might end with Ripple going public? Partly, it is the synergetic effect. Big volumes in futures markets hint that institutional players see serious potential in XRP, which in turn could drive up the digital asset's credibility. More credibility means more strategic partnerships, and that bolsters Ripple's core business of providing enterprise-grade blockchain solutions. Then, if an XRP ETF locks in mainstream acceptance, the stage is nearly set for Ripple to follow Circle's example, or even overshadow Circle when it decides the public markets are welcoming enough. In the spirit of a modern financial thriller, there are layers upon layers of intrigue. Perhaps you did not expect to hear that an asset once ridiculed as just another altcoin is now supported by a regulated derivatives product on one of the world's most distinguished trading platforms. Alternatively, maybe the fiasco of prior legal challenges made you skeptical that Ripple could ever turn the corner, but that is precisely the tension that keeps people captivated. Each time Ripple defies the odds, securing a new major partnership, reporting high usage rates for its on-demand liquidity solution, or seeing a surge in XRP-based trading on regulated platforms, the storyline takes another dramatic twist. And at the heart of it lies a big question. Are we, in real time, witnessing the evolution of a technology that might transform how money moves across borders? And if so, will there come a point when mainstream finance, as we know it, coalesces with blockchain-based systems in a seamless manner? The legally minded among us might recall how much confusion surrounded the situation in which regulators were trying to decide whether certain tokens counted as unregistered securities. Ripple was embroiled in high-stakes disputes, at times overshadowing its innovative potential. Yet those who maintained faith believed the company's approach, building actual corridors for cross-border transfers, would ultimately win out, especially when regulators shifted from a blanket condemnation to a more nuanced stance. The turning point, some argue, has already arrived, given that the CME listing for XRP futures is not only a signal of institutional confidence, but also a tangible hallmark of regulatory acceptance within the framework of reputable trading venues. That sense of recognition is often all it takes for major capital allocators, from hedge funds to pension managers, to decide that an asset is worth integrating into their portfolios. Once an asset class is acknowledged under established guidelines, it evolves from being an obscure curiosity to something that can be reliably bought, sold, borrowed against, and utilized for unlocking liquidity. One might say that in the world of finance, perception is almost as powerful as reality. That is why the shift in how Ripple and XRP are now viewed is potentially monumental. Having battled to clear its name, Ripple is emerging as not merely a scrappy crypto startup, but a budding industry titan. Now, let us circle back to the mania around initial public offerings. After seeing Circle's stock leap by over 600%, we have to wonder if a similar wave of euphoria could lift Ripple's valuation should it choose to go public. John Deaton apparently thinks so, and he is not alone. The logic goes like this. If Circle's success is grounded in the growth of its stablecoin, then Ripple's hold on tens of billions of XRP tokens, plus its established cross-border software solutions, may be an even stronger rationale for a high valuation. Rival corners of the crypto world might dismiss that as naive hype, but the numbers do not lie about Circle's transformation into a tens of billions of dollars juggernaut. And what if, in a few months or even a year or two, Ripple decides to pull the trigger and file for an initial public offering? Could we witness shares of Ripple surging in a parallel or even more dramatic fashion? Even while these dreams swirl among enthusiasts, the Ripple leadership team appears publicly to downplay them. But conventional wisdom in business suggests that when a strategic opportunity arises, the official stance can change overnight. It would be unwise for a major firm, especially one still navigating legal hurdles in the United States, to tip its hand prematurely. Yet as daily headlines tout the unstoppable march of digital assets into mainstream finance, from major banks exploring blockchain solutions to entire countries examining central bank digital currencies, it becomes increasingly difficult to believe that Ripple would not step in to seize an advantage. It is also worth pondering how an IPO might affect Ripple's relationship with its existing partners around the world. Becoming publicly traded imposes greater expectations for transparency. Some see that as a plus, suggesting that increased transparency would accelerate acceptance by bigger players and create an institutional halo effect. Others warn that going public places new constraints on how the company can allocate resources, potentially reducing its agility in forging opportunistic deals. This is the ongoing tug-of-war in the minds of those at the helm of Ripple, and we, as observers, can only guess how the final decision will be shaped by both external market conditions and internal strategic imperatives. Meanwhile, the chatter about an XRP-based exchange-traded fund continues to intensify. One of the critical steps to achieving that holy grail is demonstrating robust and reliable price discovery, which is typically facilitated by regulated futures markets. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange is effectively ticking that box, publishing data on volumes that soared past $500 million in just the first month. That is the caliber of liquidity that piques the interest of exchange-traded product issuers seeking the blessing of regulators. If you find yourself enthralled by the possibility that we might soon see a barrage of funds offering direct XRP exposure, we encourage you to hit subscribe so you do not miss our upcoming deep dives into every twist and turn of this rapidly evolving space. Moreover, let us not forget the global dimension. In financial centers from London to Singapore to Sao Paulo, there is a palpable hunger for regulated instruments that let market participants tap into the crypto economy. While the United States frequently grabs the spotlight, a significant portion of institutional flows might come from places that have already embraced the notion of digital assets. If that proves true, then Ripple's cross-border solutions start looking not just beneficial, but essential in modernizing the archaic rails of international payments. This is especially relevant in developing regions, where a combination of remittance volume and limited traditional banking infrastructure can create a perfect environment for something like XRP to shine. To envision this more vividly, imagine a scenario where a major multinational corporation sets up a treasury function that can instantly move funds around the globe using Ripple's technology, freeing up capital that would otherwise be locked in slow settlements. That kind of operational efficiency could change the rules of the game, and it is precisely the story that Ripple has been trying to tell, that XRP is more than just a speculative token, that it is the bedrock for a next-generation financial system built upon speed, transparency, and low fees. Granted, skeptics remain, but every new sign of institutional support chips away at the old arguments against crypto. Concluding our narrative, what should we take away from this swirling vortex of rumors, trading volumes, and high-stakes speculation about valuations surpassing $100 billion? First, we should note that the crypto industry is more resilient and sophisticated now than it was in earlier cycles of hype followed by crashes. Second, Ripple has displayed an uncanny capacity to adapt, whether that meant battling lawsuits or forging partnerships in far-flung markets where the promise of frictionless transactions is especially enticing. And third, the parallels to Circle's meteoric rise and subsequent massive market cap underscore that legacy finance might be opening its doors to digital asset companies faster than many believed possible. While no one has a crystal ball to predict exactly when or if Ripple will finalize its leap to the public markets, the growing fervor around its potential IPO should not be dismissed lightly. Institutions are watching, regulators are warming up to crypto in measured ways, and large swaths of global investors are eager for new ways to gain exposure to blockchain-enabled finance. Ripple, standing as one of the best positions to capitalize on these shifts, might just take the plunge at the perfect moment, shocking the world yet again in the process. Whatever happens, it is certain that the story of Ripple and XRP is far from over, and the stakes could not be higher for everyone involved. That wraps up our deep dive into one of the most exciting crypto narratives unfolding right now. Will Ripple truly outdo Circle's surge and rocket beyond $100 billion in market capitalization, fueled by unstoppable XRP demand and possible exchange-traded fund approvals on the horizon? Or will caution prevail, with Ripple's leaders biding their time before diving into the frothy depths of publicly listed equities? Only time will tell. One thing is for sure, if you want to keep your finger on the pulse of this game-changing story, stay tuned to our channel. Big moves could be around the corner, and you would not want to miss them.